Yeah, there you are. Allie, Liam, Evan. Evan, did you take 324 with me? Okay, you just look really familiar. I've reached that age where I see people and I'm like, oh, you remind me of other people I know, and so it always feels like I know everybody. Arlette. Okay. Sam. There you are. Claire. Xavier. Bridget. Macy. And Colin. It's Colin. Great. Everybody's here. Good. Okay, so we are working on our storyboards. The outlines are due today at midnight. I want to I'd like to talk to everybody about them today. We've got about an hour, so what I'd like you to do, if you have it done or at least started, I want you to give us an overview of what you're doing. Okay, you can either read the outline. If you've already, the 4 of you that have submitted it, I can put it up on the screen. We can look at it. If you don't have anything done, you can kind of try to spitball. We can workshop a little bit. All right, that's totally fine. You do have like 12 hours to get that done, though. Okay, a little over 12 hours. Mainly, I just want to be able to go around and have everybody chat about it a little bit. We've got, what, 11 people, so I think we can get this done in the next hour pretty easily. All right, we'll spend a few minutes on everyone. Sound good? Yeah? Okay. You don't really have a choice, so I hope it sounds good. This is what we're doing. All right, so that's due today. Tuesday at midnight is when the critique for the actual storyboards are due. All right. We talked about how to build those on Tuesday, and I can go over it again. You just need a large sheet of paper or several large sheets of paper, all right, something bigger than 8.5 by 11. I can grab tabloid sheets for you if you want those. You need to do between 12 and 24 frames. 12 is the absolute minimum. And just remember what I said about minimums in my classes, right? That you will get a C. The best you can hope for is a C if you do the minimum in the description, okay? It's not to like scare you or anything, but don't shoot for minimums, okay? 24 is not necessarily a maximum, but I wouldn't go too far over it just because it becomes a lot of work, all right? If you're gonna do that, like think about how you wanna break your story up into sections, then you can assign the number of frames per section that you need to do, the number of panels. Okay, so if you're doing 24 panels, 24 frames, and your story is a 3-part story, then you're going to have 8 panels per, is that math check? Yeah, 8 panels per section. Make sense, right? 8 times 3 is 24. Beginning, middle, end. That's what I mean by sections, right? If you're going to do 4 sections, so you have a beginning, 2 middle sections, and an end, then you're going to have 6 panels per section, and so on. All right, you can do the rest of that math. If you're going to have 2 sections, which I don't recommend, 12 panels per section if you do 24. Right? So just take how many panels you're doing, divide that by the number of sections, and that tells you how many panels per section. Do not go over 6 panels per page because you need room to leave notes. Your panels need to be numbered. All right, so panel 1, panel 2, panel 3. You might have panel 1A, panel 1B, panel 1C. If you've got some like complex action sort of happening, that's up to you to decide how to break that up. And we can have a conversation about it if you're not sure. Okay. And then you need a description of the action. You need to talk about camera movements, have those described on your panels, etc. You can show motion lines. Hopefully you watch the videos or will watch the videos that are in the assignment description that talk about how to build storyboards. Okay, they are very, very helpful. They're not very long. All right, are there any questions before we get started on outlines? No? Okay. The 4 of you that have already submitted, I'm gonna do you first. So Gabby, you want to talk about yours?
Yep. Okay, so it is Pinky Winky Chronicles of a Cat Explorer.
I love it.
Episode 1, Interdimensional Cat Poker. So this is like a storyboard for the short cartoon bit about the cat. He plays a dimensional cat. So Tiki Wiki or Cheer Up and Cat Explorer visits Cat Friendly Poker League, and he meets up with his friends Midge the Devil Cat and Fitzroy the Salamander Cat.
Awesome.
Yeah. So the first two frames, they're part of like the cartoon intro, think like YouTube. So frame one, the Chronicles of a Cat Explorer logo grows on the screen while the intro plays, and then he crosses the screen, meows, and then it fades to the actual show.
Is that like the James Bond thing where he walks into the middle of the shoot?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Kind of, yeah.
Kind of? Okay. That's just what that's what it made me think of.
Like, you know, he just walks in.
Yes.
Mom.
Yes. Okay, great.
And the next section, he waking up, school alarm clock, noise. He wakes up to the alarm clock, and then it in on the shock. Sleep for his cat. And then scramble under a bed, and then he leaps into the portal, and
Where's the portal come from?
the portal's under the bed.
Okay. So maybe on like frame 6, you can show, or maybe in some of these other frames, you can show something sort of glowing underneath the bed, right? Just as like a foreshadowing for that portal. Because just having it show up in frame 7 without giving any kind of clue as to it being there in the other frames is going to be like a big surprise. It doesn't have to be any like shot of like the portal, right? It can just be a glow and then
Glow.
right, exactly. Yeah.
All right.
And maybe it's pulsating like you've got in frame 8.
And then it's kind of like Tiki Wiki is suspended in air, and then he abruptly falls like in the slapstick cartoon. All of a sudden, on his face, that uh-oh expression. And then Tiki Wiki falls. It's a long fall, so Tiki Wiki gets bored. Tiki Wiki pulls a magazine out from behind him and starts reading. Because it's a cartoon, this is not explained to the magazine. Suddenly, Tiki Wiki's fall speeds up and he drops the magazine and floats above him and falls. And then the magazine is still falling, floating gently, but Tiki Wiki has fallen.
Gotcha.
And then Tiki Wiki lands on his back with a thud. And then, so now the interdimensional cat. So there's a wide shot of the cat. And then the shot kind of travels and it focuses on Midge the devil cat. It travels again and focuses on Fitzroy the salamander cat. Back to Tiki and smiles. And then it fades to black and the end.
Great. So a way to connect 15 and 16, because Tinky Winky falling on his back and then you go to the poker room, there's no like connection between the two sections.
Like sit up.
What if he just falls into his chair at the table? You know, just boom, and then he's there, and then you introduce the other two characters and fade out. That feels like a more direct connection between the two sections. And it's a cartoon. That stuff works. This is great. This is really, really good. Okay. What do you guys think? Any suggestions? Any comments? Any sudden sparks of inspiration? It's too early in the morning. It's 11 o'clock. It's not early. No? Okay, great. No, I also think this is really good. So motion lines are going to be important for you when you're doing your storyboards, because it is a cartoon and that depends a lot on physical humor and action. So just make sure you're showing motion lines. These notes you've got written are exactly the notes you need to put under the frames. Perfect. And then you can put little notes in the frames that are things like with the portal light pulsing under the bed, right? You can put a thing that says portal light pulsing under the bed, foreshadows portal, that kind of thing. You got to think of it in terms of like you're writing notes to the animators. Like you're the script writer, you're the storyboard artist. You guys are all having a conversation, and you're trying to make it as clear as possible to the people next in the chain that are going to do the work. Does that make sense? Okay. This is really good. Yeah, well done. Okay, great. Great. Rate it right now. All right, Liam. Let me get yours here.
So, mine is taken from anyway, and I was like, oh, this would be a good scene from that.
Perfect.
There's so there's 3 people who are hiking.
Okay.
And they've got a donkey carrying.
Okay.
So it starts with the white. Show the train. Doing
Okay.
something that's white clouds.
Oh, okay.
Because
Oh, I see.
the next thing that happens, the man's going
Yeah.
rain. Some more rains start falling. And the guy and then there's going to be a little bit. There'll be a secret inside the rain pouring out.
Gotcha.
It's frustrating to stop their hiking. Fire.
Yeah.
I jumped all them to sleep at night.
Awesome. This is a great little synopsis and encapsulation. Some of the extra filler notes you were talking about, like important to show the clouds in order to foreshadow the rain, stuff like that. I think you should put those in there. You can just put them in parentheses. But then I'd like to see an actual outline of frames. Right.
Okay.
So like this is great for the beginning, the synopsis, but then do a frame breakdown of just like what you want to show, like how you're seeing it in your head. What you don't have to be super specific in the sense that like the man stands on the left of the frame, right? That kind of thing. But like know that like this shot, like frame 1 is this, shot 2 is this, shot 3 is this, right? Like imagine that you're the script writer or the director, and you have to hand this off to a storyboard artist, even though that is you. But you can't just, you could send this to them, but you're not going to get, you're going to get a wide variety of results.
I guess the main reason that I wasn't sure because I figured I might be doing a storyboard frame and convey exactly something well enough. So
Sure. And that's all stuff that can change.
Okay.
Like that's not, it doesn't have, your outline isn't, I'm not going to compare your outline to your storyboards and be like, oh, you missed something or you left something out or you added something and that's not okay. Like that can absolutely change. This is just to help get you started to do some of the heavy lifting before you sit down and start drawing. Cool? All right, so yeah, just do a frame outline as well, okay? Otherwise, this is really good too. This is a great synopsis. Awesome. All right, Evan. Why it shows some and not others? All right, Evan, you want to talk about yours?
Yeah, okay. Really simple idea. Synopsis. Just a man brings a box to his house. Makes it. So that's like a really simple premise. I just tried to make it like the
Mm-hmm.
kind of like. I mean, the main idea is like what's in the box. It's kind of what I was going for. So it starts in the back of the trunk of his car and drive back to his house.
Gotcha.
Then you start seeing street lights going by.
Okay.
Back see like the box in the back, and then the third frame you go into the of the box. So the audience. Oh, so there's what I mean by the inside the box. You know how like boxes there's like the little handles on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so that's the only thing that's blacked out. But there is that like.
Oh, gotcha. So it's like you're inside the box looking out.
And then
Is it a dog?
what?
Is it like a pet inside the box?
Oh, I don't know what it is.
Oh, okay.
It's just an idea I had.
Great.
Yeah. So the car slows down right underneath the lights. Light. The back of the trunk,
Mm-hmm.
the box, the oval is just looking at the back of the window. The trunk opens and you see a man. The trunk illuminated by the light. You the box like picks it up so the frame shakes a little bit and the box down. And the box down is like facing a house. Established setting where it's
Okay.
and then he closes it back up, shakes again, and then he just walks into the house. And
Okay.
that's kind of the second section. And then the third, and this is like all in the unbreaking shot of the perspective.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So probably put that as a note from somewhere.
I think. Yeah, I mean, I'll just like add it.
Yeah, that'd be good.
But yeah, but then the third section. So you've kind of been in the perspective of the box, the audience go in, switch to no longer in the with that, but in more the
Mm-hmm.
so house well, and this third section we call shots to the left box, and then right, right, and push the box, the third section. Fourth section. The next shot we see after that one in the room into in like a shot box like in the background.
Right.
But he's just getting like speakers to start listening.
Okay.
I don't know like the dialogue, but I kind of like, the idea I had is about like privacy. Oh, it's
Right.
so directly after that, the inside the box. The box is of that. Every, I think we get. Yeah. So he starts to like use it in the perspective of the box, and as he's out of the hallway, the kitchen, or no, it's actually in front of him. So as he's moving down the hallway,
Gotcha.
and he like implies it in him. So then in the hallway, now that it's behind him, and yeah, and then we go back to the box, still facing the same room. Then we see the box from the third person perspective from the room on the right.
Yeah.
Like that. point of view inside the box again, or like the rotates to the right. So like inside the box, leaving it to the right. The rotation stops. See like out of the wall, the end of the room, walkway that leads.
Mm-hmm.
So it starts like behind that wall, and after it rotates through that walkway.
Okay.
It's like I guess like a sound. You know, from the a little farther back, so foreground, that little shaded box in the background.
Okay. All right. This is really nice. The notes are perfect in sense of like it should look like this from these past frames. I like the callbacks. I'm really interested in this, like going back and forth between the POV, like of inside the box and outside the box. It makes me think that the thing inside the box is alive, right? Because if we're showing the perspective from inside the box, it feels like that's an important clue. You don't need to know what it is. I think the mystery in and of itself is sufficient.
Well, yeah, the point of view is more like nostalgia.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't necessarily have to be. It just has to like have a motivation.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think that's a good thing to do. The shifting, so motion lines are going to be really important for you because you've got a lot of like what I imagine it's going to look like is you're going to have a frame where you've got this oval in the middle and that's where stuff is seen, and then it's a little black around it, and so you're going to have to really convey like why that's staying the same and what's moving and where the directions it's moving and stuff like that. Like going back and forth between a third person view and that first person view is effective, but also a little tricky. Just to imagine, right? So your notes need to be very clear about like third person view outside man, first person view inside box, external world rotating this direction, etc. Like that. Does that make sense? I don't know. What do you guys think? Anybody have any thoughts about it? No.
Super interesting. I really like the concept. I think maybe it's just the POV so much slightly sometimes. So just
Yeah, I think visually it'll clear it up because it'll be such a stark difference.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Like just to like keep it in your head while you're trying to imagine it is a little difficult. So notes, like make use of notes. Okay, be very very clear with your notes. So no, this is good. Good job. All right, Sam. Sam, where is yours? You took it off?
Yeah, I have to
Like, did you just now take it off because we were doing the critique?
Yeah, well, I was like rereading it.
Yeah.
Well, before we started, I was like,
Okay. All right. Do you want to talk about it at all?
I can, yeah. I'm just not like.
Well, all right. Describe it in a nutshell to us.
Well, I'm basically like a girl like stuff. Yeah. And like I like the outline. Figure out kind of want to start. Yeah. And then I want to go back for like all of the going down.
Yeah, it's great. I think like visually it would be effective to show like you're talking about show that environmental wreckage more than uh, personal wreckage. It might even be effective to just show her as like a blur moving through the scenes, and then you could have you got to show like a state change in the environment, right? Like first shot before she comes into that environment, be like as she's sleeping, the room is pretty tiny, right? And then she wakes up and there's a blur, and the next shot is like the room is that conveys that scrambling. And same with like her moving through the house, an establishing shot, a blur shot, the wreckage. Does that make sense? I think that's a great idea. I think that would show that kind of like it communicates the frenetic quality of her moving through the space, and it's like a subtle way of showing. Is that clear? I think that's great. I don't think you need to know or have completely formulated an ending. Like the ending could just be her getting out the door, right? It doesn't need to be anything more than that. It could just be about the mad dash to get out the door when you wake up. That is more than cool. Okay, I think it's a great idea. And just write it up and do it in the frame by frame outline like we've been talking about with notes about what you imagine each storyboard frame should. And the big thing, everyone, with these outlines is, you have your synopsis. You got to kind of try to distill and really think about like what is the overriding impression you want someone to take from watching. Assuming you're all doing it. What is the feeling that you want them? Is it a mystery, like wondering what's in the box? Is it the kind of slapstick comedy of an interdimensional cat poker game? Is it the sort of quiet calmness hiding out from a storm in a cave while on a hike? Or is it the like anxiety of waking up and trying to get out of the door? That is the emotional core of each of these pieces. And the easier and sooner that you can identify that, it acts like a lodestone or a lighthouse for how you navigate making this outline, these storyboards, because it gives you something to go back to each time. If you find yourself just adding things to it, you can always ask the question, does this fit that emotional core? Oh, it doesn't, I can get rid of it. What else might fit that emotional core better? Right? What else helps reinforce the anxiety of trying to get out of it? Or the calmness, but sort of like frustration of having to wait out a storm while you're on. Does that make sense to everybody? Right. Identify that, and then you can use that to sort of help frame everything. Cool. Okay. Well, let's just go around then, and we'll chat. Bridget, we'll start with you. We'll go around the outside. Is that good? Okay. So just give us a. You don't have to go by frame, just synopsis. You think of what your emotional core is.
So what I want to do is stand up like
Yeah.
But I don't have. But so I want to have the first section an establishing land shot, car. And then the next shot, there's a person just standing by his parked car on the side of the highway. Maybe like a guy.
Yeah.
I guess the kind of the sense that I want to get is obviously it's a suspense, but maybe it's toward like the beginning. This guy is a badass. Stop.
You just make him look like
Batman.
He's all. Each
And
scene,
then-
he's somebody different, just to convey that.
Yeah, different character. And then there's like the mid shot of the speeding car. I think from the slightly shadow car.
Okay.
And then there's a wider shot we profile dramatic screech and stop. All that. And then stepping out of the car. And so one person steps out of the car.
So it's like a low shot. And
Yeah,
you see
the
the
low
feet get up.
shot, and
Nice.
then you kind of see them like or whatever. Together. And then face. Or he's gonna fight them or something. And then the third section would be the fight. I think the other people in the car, or like one of them, or the other people who step out of the car takes the first, flex it, he takes on 4 people. You know, don't quite have that worked out yet. And then that guy went quickly for them. A quick shot of each of them, either their faces or like their body on, and then scene of him driving away, high up.
Nice. Nice.
Is that the end? No, that's effective. So, has anyone ever heard of Digital? Corridor Digital? Okay. They're a special effects studio in LA. And they've got a YouTube channel. And on the YouTube channel, they've got all these different shows they do, like animators react, visual effects artists react, stuntmen react, stunt women react, and in their stuntmen and women react, it's in one of these. It's in a bunch of them actually. They'll talk about like they have actual stunt people come on that have worked on like Marvel movies and stuff like that, and they talk about some of their favorite fight scenes, and then they talk about how to frame fight scenes. Like they had the stunt coordinator for John Wick on, and they were talking about how they frame a lot of John Wick's fight scenes, the Marvel fight scenes, how those get framed. You know, they talk about the importance of showing like the establishing shot and being able to sell the motion. They've had people from like Jackie Chan's stunt team come on and talk about like Jackie Chan's movie and how the rules that they go by when they're trying to communicate physical action. I recommend getting on here and just watching a bunch of these to give you a sense of like how they actually. I think it'd be really, really helpful. All right, and maybe I'll play some in class. They're great. I love them. I subscribe to them, so like I can log into their website, and then they've got extended versions of all of these. They're like 20 minutes long, as opposed to the 13 minutes long. So they're really, really good. Great, awesome. Evan, we did you. Allie, you want to talk about yours? Sure. Yeah, just give us like a brief overview and kind of what you're hoping to achieve with it. Mm-hmm. That's fine. What's the emotional core you think you're shooting for? Like, what's the emotional impetus behind it? What's the reason?
I have it like
So it's kind of like, so what this sounds like is the initial sort of irritation that something happens that you don't like. That initial kind of frustration, but then rolling with it. Just trying to find, yeah. So that could be like your emotional, right? Like you could say like, you could just write yourself a little note and be like, the whole point of this is to show that the frustration of something happening that you don't want to have happen, but then being able to find a way to make it okay. And that'll help you sort of focus the rest of the story around that, because then you can start thinking about other sort of like subtle ways to show that idea. Like think about the ways you do, like if something crappy happens to you during that's out of your control, right? How do you sort of roll with it and make it okay? Great, that's awesome. I meant to ask you about the emotional core of yours. What was yours?
I mean, like it's like kind of like beginning.
Yeah.
You're still getting like suspenseful, but not in a like anxiety.
Okay.
More I don't know if that's an emotion,
Adrenaline?
but it feels like
Yeah. It's there's dread and then there's like anticipation. And they both cause anxiety, right? They both have the same sort of like physiological response in the body, but then they have different. There's almost like an eagerness with anticipation, and then there's a reluctance with dread, right?
Not like a horror movie anxiety.
A roller coaster kind of. Right. Yeah. No, I get it. So it's the difference between like being afraid of the monster under your bed and like jumping off of a bike ramp.
Yeah.
Like try to reduce it down to something really tangible, right? Because that if you can do that when you're communicating like these emotional cores to people, if you can reduce it down to something that is probably a fairly universal experience, then they can understand it much better, much more easily. Does that make sense? All right, cool. It's yours.
I just joined class.
Oh,
the
right.
other day.
Right, I forgot about that.
So
Are you Faith is your advisor?
yes,
Yeah, okay. All right. So so don't worry about it. You don't need to do this today unless you have an
I
idea.
just did a little something.
Sure, that's
I
fine.
don't know if it's I don't know what I was supposed to
Did
do,
you watch the
but-
recording from Tuesday?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I did nothing today. I wasn't sure if I was today.
Okay. I haven't looked at my email yet.
No worries. So I didn't know if I was doing this right. So mine is about a fair style from Seattle. We were the Mountain High Crossing Victoria.
Okay.
So he like comes in for confidence to ride the subway, and he like to get basically fast, a lot of camera angles, fast.
Yeah.
And zoom in. All this. He's very afraid. And then he goes in. One of the side. The very nothing spot.
Oh,
Yes.
gotcha.
So
Yeah.
he's like the oddball out.
Right. Like Paddington,
Yeah.
which is
And
giant.
so, yeah. And so he's like really sad because he's on the subway. But then he breaks out his frosting. His confidence back. And then he walks out of the subway and he's turning his confidence.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That's a good start. That's definitely a good start. That's a good
I want his
synopsis.
dad to work camera angles. That's like,
Yeah, no, that's a good synopsis. So that's like that would be
Yeah.
your chunk at the beginning, and then you can do your frame outline,
Yeah.
right? The frame outline is gonna like you should go back and watch the video from Tuesday, but the frame outline is really gonna break that down for you. And then since you have access to everything on Blue Line now, the assignment description has a bunch of links to like how to do storyboards, how to do the outline, and then a bunch of different examples of like directors talking about their storyboard process to give you a sense of like how to put it, or why you would put it together. Again, like you're probably going to want to try to distill that down to like a sentence emotional core. Which I mean, what do you think it would be for what you've written? Like what your emotional core would be?
oh, like,
But he's not happy the whole time, right?
No, but he's like happy, excited about something, not happy, embarrassed, the oddball out.
Yeah.
And then
Okay. Because how does he get happy again?
by the process.
What is it about the frosting that makes him happy? Magical frosting.
Yeah.
It's frosting. It's sugar. It's great. I mean, that's perfect. So he's eager and anticipating something, and then he's confronted with it, and it's a little scary, and so he gets a little scared, and then he remembers that he's got a way to make himself happy again about it, right? Like, so that's his emotional like journey, right? So it'd just be something similar to that. Okay? No, it's a great start. All right, Claire.
Okay. I also.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I did it later. But I also think I need to break down some.
Sure.
I might need to talk to you about this. But I ended up I found an old animation from a high school class in 2017.
That you did?
I was like, yeah.
I love this. Your
That
high
was
school class in 2017.
2017. It was never finished, so I was like, you know what? Why don't I do it? Because it was also my art style.
Sure.
Overall vibe that I'm going for is definitely kind of like a mystery. Something exactly right. You start off seeing like little child legs running across the street. Screen. It's like something like the knee down or like down or something like that.
Oh, gotcha.
And then I don't know exactly how to call it, but when it's like you see something on the screen and then there's like a flash cut of like something different for just like a second or two, and then it continues on with the video.
Oh.
You know what I'm talking about? Like
Yeah, it's called a jump cut.
a jump cut. That's what I.
Yeah.
But it's like one of those. It's gonna always be kind of associated with thunder rumbling
Okay.
and like stuff like that. But there's that. The same shot of like what the little girl was running through, but it's like all like dead.
Like a wasteland? Ah, okay.
And so then it comes back and like the child's like screen.
Gotcha.
And then it pans to like a 3/4 view. You see like the girl like running. It's like her face now, and she's like super excited. And, like,
Do we know it's the same girl? Is it the same girl?
Yeah, it is the same girl.
So
it'll
maybe-
be because at some point it'll be a full shot, so you'll be able to see like the outfit. And stuff like
Is she the
that.
same age or is she older?
It's the same age.
Oh,
in-
gotcha.
in that one. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But she's running, and it pans over, and you see like a little boy like chasing after her. Essentially, it's gonna have like those little flash cuts, and then just you see like this like other figure like starting like walking in the direction. And so you see little kids running towards like this giant castle, and so they seem to be racing towards like almost like chasing each other to like race you to the like castle or something like that.
Right.
And so once they seem like they're running and they're about to touch like whatever their tag spot was, it like pauses and see that where they are kind of fades almost like opacity setting, and you see like the dead land like under like what it is. And I feel like when I'm doing a storyboard, one version of it can be like in color, and like the deadlines is all like black and white, but then the other area is like color. So then when I bring it, you see like a lower opacity. You can tell it's like.
Gotcha.
But you see that it's like probably something like a hologram or like a memory or
Oh,
something
sure.
like that. And the figure comes up and can see these holograms and tries to like interact with them. But it's like unable to, so it like goes.
So you could do something like chromatic aberration. Do you know what that is? So chromatic aberration is when you take, so light is made up of lots of different spectrums, right? Like red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet.
Yeah.
And lots of others, but those are the ones we see.
Yeah.
Chromatic aberration is when you take the three primaries of light, like red, green, and blue, and instead of them being synchronized so that you see full color, you offset them just a little bit. And so that what you end up seeing is you see full color in sort of the middle areas where they're overlapping, but then on the edges, you'll see the green, the red, the blue, or red, green, blue, and it'll change and it'll shift, and so chroma, color, aberration.
Okay.
It's what happens when you look at like. You guys ever see those hologram boxes of images and you move them around? Right, or like a what's the term for it? Lenticular, where it's a bunch of plastic. It's a bunch of grooves, plastic grooves that are really small, and they're set at an angle. And they can be 3 angles, or they generally 2. And on one side of each of the rows is 1 image. On the other side of each of the rows is 2 images. And so depending on the angle you look at the picture from, it'll change. It'll be a different picture, right? That's a chromatic aberration because, of course, it's kind of because depending on the angle you see it, it'll sort of shimmer and change. And it's a way in movies they show a lot of it.
Yeah.
So that could be.
Yeah. So essentially, and then it goes just like
Mhm.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
And then spring to life, like the memory. They like run up the stairs. But
Mhm.
it's just like at the person looks around and see how like dead it is.
Yeah.
And then going up the follow.
Oh, nice. Do you remember? Did you ever see Minority Report with Tom Cruise? There's a scene in that. Not that one. Well, I'll try to find it and post it for you.
Yeah,
There's a scene where like he's got this like hologram recorder and he's remembering his family because he doesn't have his family anymore, and it has that sort of feel, right? Like it's this ghosty, ephemeral projection onto this really desolate environment that he's in. And he's always trying to like grab it and stuff. So something like that might be interesting to look at. This is great. Some of the other things you said, just in terms of like how you want it to look, the reaching through and like make sure all those notes are in there.
Yeah.
And then just really think about how you're going to communicate that shifting, right? What that's going to look like. When you guys are doing storyboards, you can use color. They don't need to be just black and white, all right? They don't need to be like fully cleaned, fleshed out drawings, right? They can just be gestural. Again, refer to the videos in the descriptions about like how to do storyboards if you don't know how to draw, kind of a thing. If you're worried about that. But they should be more. If color is important to communicating the idea, like in your sense it's going to be, you need to make an attempt to show that, right? And if you're worried you can't, then lots of notes about it. Lots and lots of notes. The whole point with storyboards is to communicate your idea clearly, right? To just make sure people understand. Cool? Okay. All right. Liam, we'll do yours now. Oh, shoot. Did you do your storyboards?
I've only done 9.
Okay.
But my synopsis have it like around might have changed.
Yeah.
I down section life and harmony into that slash top. The last section
We're all so hopeful.
it's like and color will be have like
Okay. Okay. No, so have you done a frame outline or just your synopsis? Like you did your synopsis and now you're just doing your frames or what?
I've done I don't know cow and grass. The second one bird just like
Yeah. Okay. What you want to do is, I mean, have you started drawing your storyboards? Okay. Are you drawing it like cow in the grass under the sun? And then you got a bird coming in? All right. if you're trying to show that your idea is very broad, right? Very general, and that's fine. But then your imagery feels really specific in a way, and maybe isn't as general. The symbolism of what you're showing is maybe not as general as it should be, or could be. Cow, pig, bird, like why those three animals?
I
That are easily okay, but those are animals that coexist because they're domesticated. Does that make sense? Is that part of what you want to show? Because if you're trying to show like before man's meddling, humanity's meddling, the planet was fine. Humans start to meddle, planet turns to shit. Does that make sense? Is that generally? I mean, that's the Anthropocene in a nutshell, right? Like we are causing irreversible damage to our environment because we meddle with it. So you got to do your establishing section of like things are okay without people, right? And I don't know that pigs and cows necessarily coexisted, other than like maybe living in the same ecosystems.
yeah, that's kind of like way.
Yeah. So what I would maybe do is like,
And then what they
yeah, okay, all right. I guess I keep seeing like maybe more pulled back environmental shots. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. So anyway, didn't work out. Just that makes sense though, right? Like okay, great. I think it's a great idea. I want the through line. Find your through line. Okay, awesome. Who do yours?
Yeah. So mine,
Two balloons. Okay.
so this way, four chapters. Beginning. Part.
Yeah.
There's another shot. And then so shot right there. See like two lines in the sky.
But from like different
Yeah,
environment. Okay.
Yeah, so
Great.
one shot it's like that blue.
You can have like different colored skies, maybe.
exactly.
Different
One's
types of
like a
clouds.
cityscape. And
Right,
then
right.
Park it. Cityscape. They get like
Traveling through the clouds.
yeah, exactly. The next chapter. Sort of
Strings intertwined.
yeah, that's
Like it's
So-
stuck together.
yeah. So they love each other. They sort of eventually get married.
How did they get ice cream?
It's-
Wait, back
it's
this up.
cartoon.
Yeah, but like,
It's like a bunch of jump cuts into like, oh, they get ice cream. Next thing you know, they get married. That.
what if you don't go solo? What if you try to keep it in the realm of like reality? You get ice cream in a way that how would a non get ice cream? What is a way that interpret them getting it? And this is an open question. Yeah. See, but that's anthropomorphizing. You're giving them. Well, no, then they're holding on to it.
Like,
Ice cream. Yeah.
so it looks super funny. Expression.
Yeah.
It's like
They can't
it's
eat
like
it.
it's like they get stuck on the table for a second
Yeah,
and there's
yeah.
ice cream right
They're
there.
just hovering by the ice cream.
Right. I was thinking more literally like they're floating along, the table thing happens, right? The ice cream sundae and the wind blows them down into it really.
Okay,
They fly
yeah.
out, right?
Yeah.
And then the wedding scene could be that like they're floating along, we get blown into a church, and there's a wedding going on, sort of like stop and hover above the groom, above the two people getting married, and then the wind takes.
Yeah. Okay.
That sort of thing, as the marriage is being like finalized, right? As they consummate. And then they get blown out. Right. So it's like they end up in all these situations where it can be read as them doing those, but it's not actually. You're not like them doing it. You're not like giving them a face or arms.
Yeah, it's like the background.
Right. Exactly. It's more subtle, and I think it's something you don't see very often. Cartoon thing you see all the time, right? And that's easy. But I think if you were to give yourself the constraint of not giving them face, them arms.
Yeah, I wasn't.
Right. Being real subtle about like how they're doing. I like that. Like they get their first date could be like they get stuck above it.
Are they like
Regular round.
Animal balloons you can do a lot. But yeah, I like the round. The fake length.
Yeah.
Did you try it? Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So I guess I'll keep.
Yeah. Leave yourself those notes. Give yourself those constraints.
Right.
Find your emotional core. What's your ending? Yeah.
Start one like ground,
the top?
and then they're both going back to ground.
At the same time. Great. Love it.
Love
it. So essentially your emotional core, your through line is life. Just life. Cool, great. No, I love it. Leave yourself a lot of notes, right? Include a lot of notes. Motion lines, again, really important. This is for everybody, motion lines, and then column. Motion lines, and then your camera lines, camera direction. Colin, in a nutshell.
All right, so basically it's a year-old man for college, doesn't really know. But so he's living in their home. On a late night, dog collar runs into the street, car coming down the street, dog, and stops abruptly. The dog up.
But does it feel like?
Yeah, it's close.
Uh,
Yeah. And then they both freeze, the man and the woman, and then they make eye contact. The car, he's outside. They get out of the car. He asks her what she was jamming on her way. And the music is still playing. But she gets out of it. Or no, the phone is still playing. And then she's like, oh, you listen to Tame Impala? And, yeah. You know, more, and then excitement, ask for a ride to the gas. It's slushy. It's kind of hit. But spontaneous. I had to give him a ride. And then right now, I'm on like a 8 back drive.
Okay. All right. This happened to you because it's very.
No.
Okay. All right. It's just there were lots of like real specific things. I was like, this is a great summer story, Colin. I want to hear more. All right.
All details that add up.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah. Keep going with it. That feels like it's gonna have a good arc. There's gonna be some. You might have too much. You might be trying to fit too much. 24 panels. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because your short would be. You got to remember the short is short. Even my short standard, really short. So it could be that they end getting the slushy, right? I don't know that on that. Write it out though, and then when we submit for critique, and then feedback. Kind of narrow it down. Okay. Cool. All right, everybody. These all sound really good. Remember your emotional through lines, your frame outline. Frame outline is just as important as the synopsis. Okay? That is all going to help you focus the work that you're doing. Great? Okay. That's due tonight. Tuesday will be storyboards. Next week, they're not due on Tuesday.
So tonight the Word document is new for the picture for both.
The Word document for the frame outline.
Okay.
No picture. Oh, sorry. Next Thursday, there's a Thursday coming up. We don't have class. 2 weeks. Sorry, in 2 weeks we won't have class.
After Labor Day.
After Labor Day. Yeah, Thursday after Labor Day we won't have class there. But otherwise everything sounds really good. If you have any questions? Okay.